Dr. C.H. Mohan Ragaru, Director CCMP and also President of OIT Academy of Sciences, Professor P. Jayaprakash Rao, Chairman Higher Education Council, Professor Sita, Professor P.N. Reddy, and other dignitaries on the dais, off the dais, and the teachers, young students. Now, since yesterday we have been asking, or you have been asking, Andhra Pradesh Academy of Sciences, can you do this, can you do that, can't you do this? Now we have a right person here, is the chairman of Higher Education Council, and he can reflect on some of the demands or the recommendations made by most of the speakers. And just now, Dr. Mohan Rao also pointed out professionalization of basic sciences. Now he made it very clear yesterday, and also many others, including Bhargava, taking a science career, that is first BSc 3 years, MSc 2 years, PhD 4+ years. So altogether it is taking long time to settle. Therefore, can we request the Chairman Higher Education Council to give a real thought to it. Otherwise, competing with BTech or medicine, preferably students go to that direction rather than coming to the basic sciences. This is one of the very important points. Many of the great speakers have been suggesting since yesterday. I request Chairman Higher Education Council, Professor Jayaprakash Ragaru, to note down this point and reflect on that, the possibilities of making professionalization of science education. And other things is, many people also suggested how to make science easily understandable. Now, whether you take it as pedagogy or otherwise, each individual teacher can adopt his own methods. Likewise, each scientist who spoke yesterday, they are given different impressions of their thoughts, and I scribbled a note, not completely, whatever I felt at the important point, those points are scribbled in my notebook, and I read those points so that the person who is coming to listen to us and try to give some answers and reflect on our recommendations suggested by the great speakers. The first speaker of the inaugural address is Professor Adinarayana. He is the Vice Chancellor of Osmania University. He was very worried about the funding to the state universities. When the funding is not properly made, how do you expect quality education? Even the teachers are committed and work for communicating better science education. So, therefore, the government must also come forward, state government, because education is a combined problem. Therefore, state as well as central government, both of them must come forward to support state universities and liberally support to financially and strengthen the university education. Now, at this point, I also request the Chairman Higher Education Council, the strengthening of higher education, BSc, MSc. Unless the laboratories are strengthened, now if you take the examples of the developed countries, India is almost, we say it is developed stage or closely reaching to that stage. Why can't we think of our the science education at BSc and MSc level very similar to the developed countries. Now here I'll go to an example. If you give a project work to a student of BSc first year or second year, you give a problem. Come on, you prepare this compound, characterize and report. That is the assignment you give. The student prepares the compound, does all the experiments, records the spectrum, and finally characterizes and reports the compound. Now you give the marks. What is the problem? That is how you can assess. So this type of education we have to adopt in the universities now, because the situation is totally changed, the technology is improved. Unless we change our university education at this stage, we cannot compete with the rest of the world. So that is one point we have to keep in mind. So Professor Satyanarayana is very much worried about the funding. So also he is connected quality of education with the funds. Later on, C.H. Mohan Rao Garu, he also pointed out the same, the professionalization of the science education, and he also equated the education with the socio-economic problems. That means even at the school level, the socio-economic reasons are also making the students to opt basic sciences. So such type of problems can also be tackled with the proper funding from Rajiv Vidya Mission or SSA, something like that, so that proper infrastructure facilities will be arranged, particularly in the rural areas. And he suggested many other things. Of course, I have already quoted BSc plus MSc plus PhD, and that is the point I think one has to seriously think of. Instead of taking so long, if you make a professionalization of science education to 4 or 4.5 years with effective training, probably that is a good thing. That is the recommendation suggested by Professor Dr. Mohan Rao. Dr. Ahmad Kamal, Director, IICT, also suggested the teacher involvement for strengthening the science education. This teacher involvement is already there, and that part also I think one has to work very seriously, particularly in the government schools. Encouraging science at the school level is a very important factor. That is the suggestion came from Ahmad Kamal. Dr. Y.V. Bhaskar Rao is NGRI. He suggested that the science and the technology is becoming very narrow, and the science must be interdisciplinary. So that is, one has to think academicians who are involved in curriculum making, probably that is a problem he suggested while making curriculum. This interdisciplinary aspect also one has to consider. APJ Abdul Kalam, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, former President of India, he suggested one very important point, that is the scientist, particularly senior scientist, must be magnanimous to strengthening the basic sciences. Go to rural areas, go to people where basic sciences development is required, and help the stakeholders to strengthen the basics. That is very, very important point that I could get from him, in addition to many examples he suggested. Dr. Bhargava, Pushpa Bhargava, he also gave very good examples from his own experience of textbook development, particularly 6th class. And also, he made a very wonderful remark: the science education gives or provides value system in the human beings. That is, our science education must develop value system. That is, if the science is properly delivered, automatically that value system comes into the beings. He also suggested one important point, that is common school system. In rural areas that is already existing. So common school system is already existing, but equal access in the rural areas, everybody is coming to the school. But nowadays what is happening is a corporate education. Many of the children, affluent children, are going away, and that commonality is lacking. Therefore, one must try to bring it back by strengthening the rural schools, government schools particularly. Of course, Dr. Balasubramaniam really, he enjoyed while speaking, and he suggested a lot of remedies. He never pointed out reasons, and he gave a series of remedies, and one of the very good example I quoted in the morning today, that is, the child is a darling to the family. Therefore, the students who are with you, they must enjoy that type of relationship with the teacher, and it's that type of teaching the teachers must adopt. So that is one of the wonderful examples we have to keep in mind, and that gives a lot of strength to us to adopt science teaching. And he also quoted one of the best examples, really, Kaun Banegar Crorepati. I never saw that program, but that program was very famous by Amitabh Bachchan. Why don't you make a quiz program very similar to that? Can't you make it? There are plenty of teachers here. Can't we make such programs? Can't we make it? People, please rise to this. We must make a quiz program like that, so that takes a lot of attention by the children and a way of attracting these children to the science education. So these are the very important points that we have to make into our lives as science communicators. And he also brought many things. The infrastructure facilities, especially in rural areas, sanitation, girl children who come to 7th class onwards, they are facing a lot of problems, and therefore a lot of dropouts from the school education by girl childs. So the governments must take, already central government has announced that program, but I don't know how it is routed through the state government to the schools, but that is a very important factor. We have been seeing, Janavijnana Vedika have been seeing such situations, and he himself also pointed out, and that is one thing the governments must take care of. Yeah, another presentation by Dr. Tyagarajan, Agastya International. They have been intervening with the school education in Karnataka state, and they are also conducting training programs for teachers as well as school children. And they are also, concepts are taught through activities, and the orientations are given to the teachers to adopt such type of teaching methodologies. And Upendra Reddy of ACRT, he suggested the science must be reflected in science education. So in that direction, they are also planning some training programs, and those training programs also can give some strength for communicators. So these are some of the things I have noted yesterday. And today, if you see the first plenary lecture by Tyagarajan, he also gave a lot of information about the importance of science education and various ways of causing interventions to the school education to develop the science communication very effective at the school level. So these are some of the things I have noted down. Maybe other the presentations we have noted, and we make a document of this and submit it to the President AP Academy of Sciences, Dr. Mohan Rao Garu, and probably we can also pass it on to the state government as well as other organizations. Thank you very much for listening to Moving Page.